Before I remove anything, I want to drain the coolant, and you can find the petcock right there, and there should be a hole in the splash shield already. So if you just reach down and spin this to loosen it, I have a drain bucket already underneath. You can see it's starting to drain, so just let this do its thing. To speed up the process, you can take off the radiator cap. I'm going to start by removing this air intake duct. Do that by removing these two 10mm bolts. Now you can lift this up, and so I don't have to completely try to remove this, which sometimes can be challenging. I'm going to bungee cord it up like that. That way it's out of my way and I can get to this hose clamp. Upper radiator support has to come off, so I don't need room from right here. The next thing I want to do is remove this upper radiator hose, grab the clamp, slide it off, remove the hose, and set it aside. The next thing I want to do is remove these 4 10mm bolts. That's going to remove the upper radiator support for me. I'm also going to have to remove the latch to allow this support to move. With this off, I can take this bolt off. Now this assembly can slide up and off. Disconnect the overflow hose. Right next to the battery, you'll see this big connector. This is the main connector for the fans. Press on the tab here and then wiggle it off. There we go. And I know nothing is disconnected on the bottom yet, but what I plan on doing is bringing it up a little bit. My next step is to disconnect the lower hose from the thermostat housing. And yes, you can disconnect it from the radiator, but I'll explain why I'm doing it this way. This avoids trying to fish your hands underneath there. I'm going to pull this hose with the radiator and then take it off the radiator once it's out of the car. Now I can pull my radiator and fan assembly up and out. And I know the transmission lines are still connected. So here is the transmission line. As you can see, it is in extremely poor condition here. Well, not the line, but the clamp. And I planned on putting some pliers down here and taking it off with pliers, but obviously there is no need for that. And this is going to require a brand new clamp. But basically you take off the clamp just like you did with the radiator hose. Now you pull the line off. You can give it a couple twists to break it free if it's stuck on there. There we go. Now you can pull this radiator further out. And with this other transmission line exposed, go ahead and remove this one too, if possible. Oh, this one's also broken off, so I'm going to have to continue breaking it until it comes off. There we go, that's off. Now I can take the rest of the hose off. And out comes your old radiator. I'm going to remove this hose clamp from the lower hose, and this one's in really poor condition, so it's definitely getting replaced. This is trash. I'm going to replace that with a new one, but these top ones I won't. These are still good. The fans are held onto the radiator with 3 bolts. Go ahead and take them out. They're all 10mm. Now you can remove the fan assembly from the radiator. Take your fans and slide them into these hooks on the bottom. Line them up with the top bolt holes and start in your bolts. Snug them up. Before this goes back in the car, you're actually supposed to take the old harness, or well, harness extension I should say. It goes from the main connector down to each fan. You're supposed to take this one off and install it on the new fan assembly. That's already broken. Remove this clip over here. If you stick your finger underneath and squeeze these two tabs together, it should pry right out. Perfect. Now you can take your new fan assembly and press these connectors into where they belong, connect them to the fan itself. Perfect. Now this can go in the car. Install your lower radiator hose, and like I said, I put in a new hose clamp. I'm going to make sure to line it up to exactly where it was before and make sure it's nice and snug. That's perfect right there. Take your radiator and fan assembly. I'm going to slide it down in just a little bit. I'm going to pause right here, and I'm going to reinstall the two transmission cooler lines with brand new clamps. Okay, that's nice and tight. Do the same to the other one. Oh, there you go. That fell right in. Be careful of your radiator fins here, and it's really hard to see, but there are two bushings. Oh, there we go, it just slid right in. There are two bushings on the bottom. The bottom has these two pins, just like here, that have to slide into two bushings. So make sure that those are slid in. And to secure it all in place, I'm gonna reattach the radiator support here with some anti-seize on the threads. Start in your 4 little 10mm headed bolts. Insert this one in as well. All right, now remount the latch. When you tighten this one, try to line it up with the witness marks that it left on the radiator support here. That way it lines up with the hood properly. Otherwise you might have some issues. So I'm going to try and hold it exactly where it was. And if for some reason it doesn't line up when you go to close the hood, just loosen the bolts and adjust it. I actually just went ahead and verified that the petcock is fully closed. That way I don't accidentally leave it open. And mine was closed, but always double check when you install a new radiator. Now install the lower hose onto here. Try to line up the clamp as close as where it was before, but this one has quite a bit of pressure left to it, so it should seal up fine. If you feel that the clamp is weak, do replace it, because otherwise it will leak. Next, reinstall the upper hose as well. Make sure it's all the way on and seated, and try to match up the clamp to where it was before. Go ahead and plug in your main fan connector. Make sure it clicks in so it's secure. Now let's install the intake duct. Put in the 2 bolts and snug those up. Reattach your overflow hose. I've installed this spill-proof funnel here, highly recommended tool, and this is how I'm going to fill the system as well as bleed it. This funnel is now the highest point in the cooling system, so all the air is going to want to rise up to here. I'm filling it up with some universal coolant. If you want to use manufacturer-specific coolant, you can use the Toyota red or pink coolant. At this point, it has stopped bleeding by itself. I filled it up just a little bit so that there's some coolant in this funnel. I'm going to start the engine now and run the car and warm it up. I also want to have the heat inside the cabin all the way on, not the fan, but the heat. You want the heat as high as it can go with the fan on low or medium, and then run the car until the engine gets up to operating temperature. Watch the temperature gauge to make sure it doesn't overheat, but what that's going to do is it's going to circulate the water pump. Coolant's going to come out through here, push out the air from the system, and then suck in the fresh coolant. Once the car is warmed up and it has reached operating temperature, you can cap this off, take it out of here, and top off your overflow. Fill it up until it reaches the full line. A little bit over is all right. Cap this off. Take off your funnel adapter and reinstall your radiator cap. with that done, you can go ahead and take it for a road test. Make sure it does not overheat. Make sure you have proper heat. And when you get back, do not open this cap because it's going to be pressurized and it will shoot out. But check your overflow, make sure that's still full. And once it does cool down, after you let it sit for a couple hours, then you can open the radiator cap and double check if you'd like to do so.